Emelie Wleklinski, who is a case manager, and she has joined us today to tell us about her career. Ms. Wleklinski, if you could start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your professional background.
Hi, I am a permanent supportive housing case manager. What led me to being here is I went to Montgomery College for 3 years while I got my associate's degree, and I worked full time while I went to school part time. And then I transferred to University of Maryland to get my psychology bachelor's. So I got a BA in psych. And during the time I was in college, I was working as an intake coordinator at a therapy practice, which got me some mental health experience. Since then, I've been working as a case manager in housing. So I've had two different roles, but both of them have been in permanent supportive housing case management.
Awesome. My next question for you is, how do you handle conflicts or disagreements with colleagues or clients?
So I try to have some energy response in more mild situations, keeping an open mind and being patient, because ultimately my goal is understanding the other people's perspective. In the case that I'm having conflict with a client, there are very specific protocols for de escalation that I'm able to follow. For the most part, colleagues and I don't have too many disagreements. Everyone in this field just practices a lot of empathy in their communication and tries to come in a pretty good mood.
What do you think are the most important qualities to be successful in your field of work?
So, I'm going to be speaking on behalf of social workers in general. I am technically not able to call myself a social worker until I get my master's, but I'm a candidate for my social work master's degree at the moment. I'm going to refer to that in general because I think it applies to a lot of social work positions that in order to have success in that field is to have a deep desire to help people, making your existence a positive impact on the world. In order to do that, you really have to believe in humanity and believe in the best in people and want the best for people. So I believe, yeah, if you just really care about the people around you and the underserved people in your community, and you're able to trust that people are good in their heart and maybe just have had circumstances that have knocked them down along the way, you can really get far with the clients that need it. And just patience and a commitment to educating yourself about situations that you might not have personally experienced, and not letting ego get in the way and feeling like you may know more than other people, because people are always the experts on themselves. So just being able to trust that.
What are some common misconceptions about your job?
I would say that a lot of people, when they hear social work or case management, they think it's like a thankless, low paying job that kind of beats people down. And it can be true if you're not really passionate about it. But if you really love what you do, first of all, it doesn't have to be low paying. A lot of social workers find themselves in positions that are lucrative. And just in general, it's not like a thankless job. There's a lot of fulfillment and a lot of gratitude that you'll get along the way. People really, as long as you have a good rapport with your clients, you will be able to see the fulfillment. So it's not like a thankless job. And I think that people would assume that social workers are all like CPS who are doing like hard, sad things. And it can be hard and sad, but it's not necessarily always hard and sad. There's a lot of really uplifting and fulfilling roles in people's lives that social workers have as well, and case managers.
And just for clarification, can you explain a little bit more in detail about what you do specifically in your job?
Yeah, so as a case manager in permanent supportive housing, I work with a caseload of, and it can be anywhere from like 15 to 25 people typically. And those can be people, meaning individuals or families. So it can be one person in that case. On my caseload could be five people in a family. These are people who've experienced or faced chronic homelessness. So these are people who have had misfortunes in some capacity and not been able to keep themselves housed due to like financial burdens or domestic violence situations or mental health situations. And so what the permanent supportive housing means is that have worked for organizations that find people who are in shelters. We get referred them from shelters typically, or from rapid rehousing programs, which are more like temporary housing. And then they are referred to us and we pay their rent. And so we make sure that they stay out of a homelessness situation again. We keep them housed. That's why it's called permanent supportive housing. It's not one of the temporary situations. People can stay housed for typically as long as they need. There's no incentive or push to get out of the system. We will pay their rent depending on their income. My role as a case manager is that I'm making sure that they are on top of whatever they need. If they do have a rental portion, I make sure that they're budgeting properly. Or if they just have other goals, maybe sobriety, I can help them with that kind of goals for that, or positive relationships in their lives. It's not quite like therapist, but it does have the same person to person relationship. I just get to come in and find what my clients' goals are and help them out and keep them housed along the way.
What would you say is one significant lesson that you have learned throughout your career?
I would say boundaries. I have definitely learned how to be able to be personable with people without letting that kind of change the dynamic into a friendship. There is a very professional relationship I have with these clients. So, regardless of how close I'm able to get with them and how much I'm seeing their personal lives and talking to them about their personal struggles, it's helped me emphasize boundaries that I've been able to take into my own life. I think a lot of people who end up in social work or case management are people like I'm a people person. A lot of the people in this field are people. And I think that can lead to people pleasing in a lot of personality types. And so I think the job has taught me through experience how to have boundaries and say no when needed and have strength in that, as opposed to the people pleasing tendencies that I think a lot of people in this field start out with, because you go in thinking that you're just going to help save everyone and you're going to make everything peachy. And you do have to learn boundaries along the way because it's not always possible.
How did you come across this career?
So I used to want to be in the mental health world a little bit more specifically. So I wanted to practice as a therapist. I ended up deciding that I want to take the social work route because got my first permanent supportive housing case management job and just fell in love with the social work aspect of things. With my social work master's, I will still be able to practice as a therapist, but I also have the door open for a lot more roles. So I can do more macro level work and I can go into like hospital social work or all sorts of things. So therapist isn't like my only option, but I still get that mental health kind of focus. I prefer that social work route, but I didn't always know I wanted to go that way.
Thank you. Can you go more into detail about the primary responsibilities of your position, maybe what your day to day would look like?
Yeah, from beginning to end with my clients, I can start by helping them with the housing process, like getting their voucher application in. The voucher meaning the rent voucher for the program that's paying their rent. Sometimes I'm starting with them from the very beginning and we're doing that application together. In some cases, doing apartment tours together or house tours. And we're looking at just like any person would be applying for housing. I'm helping them on that journey. I'm scrolling Zillow with them and helping them find a perfect fit for them in some cases. And I'm going to be like maybe working with the shelter's case manager if they're in a shelter. And then that can go all the way to signing their lease and move in. And then I'm just visiting them at their homes. At least once or twice a month, I'm seeing all of my clients and I'm going to their homes or I'm meeting them sometimes at the library or a public space if their home is not an option for whatever reason. Meeting with them face to face, talking to them on the phone, building positive relationships with their property managers or landlords. A lot of emailing and phone calling with these people, especially if there's like a maintenance issue or something of that nature or a balance on their ledger, but also just checking in and making sure everything's okay. Most times it is. I'm also helping them maintain their goals, their service plans, where we set what are your goals and we make sure they're following them, as well as just accessing basic needs. I can bring them food, I can bring them cleaning supplies in some cases. So, really just helping them with the day to day aspect of their lives.
How do you balance all of the responsibilities that you just explained? How do you balance those with your personal life?
Yeah, so I think it's very important to practice self care. The term self care is so popular these days, but it was initially popularized in the 60s by the Black Panthers. And those were people who are dedicating their lives to intense activism and having social work or case management. These are fields where similar, like you have repeated exposure to huge and systemic injustice constantly. Following that route of self care is like significantly more important in a role like this, I think. For me, that just means that I'm taking a lot of time to relax and hang out with my loved ones. No screen time, sometimes going out with my loved ones or talking on the phone with my mom, cooking, eating, watching TV. Like those are things I love. I find that being able to have, and I also have a work phone that is separate from my personal phone. So, literally, that material separation is very helpful. If it's a Saturday and I'm not on the clock, I'm really able to draw that line. And that is just one thing that's amazing about social work is that not every role has that, but my role has really allowed me to be able to separate that from my personal life. And once I'm clocked out, I can focus on taking care of myself.
Great. When you have unfamiliar tasks or challenges in your job, what do you do to tackle those?
I think it's very important that you have to be able to ask for questions when you need help. It can be like embarrassing or shy sometimes to ask for that help, but I've always had managers who are super willing to guide me and help me, and being brave enough to ask them. 9 times out of 10, they go, "Oh my gosh, that's a good question." Asking for guidance is way better than trying and doing it wrong in a lot of cases. And that requires some level of confidence and some honest curiosity, I think, in myself. I want to know how to do this correctly. So that's typically just like a brave, confident, and curious place is the most important thing.
How do you stay flexible and adaptable in the face of unexpected obstacles or setbacks? Okay,
In housing, obstacles are like so dark. So
gotcha.
yeah.
How do you stay flexible and adaptable in the face of unexpected obstacles or setbacks?
Yeah, so in my case management experience, the setbacks and obstacles can sometimes be very stressful because they are literally housing or lack of housing for some of my clients. They could be obstacles or setbacks where someone might be facing eviction and we are on a real time crunch. So being able to be adaptable is so key. Especially it makes me think of like how you have to have flexibility to do good strength training. Like I can't lift that heavy weight if I'm not able to be flexible. So I think just curiosity, like I said, but also having a trust that things will work out. The institutions, like the agencies I've worked for, exist to help people protect themselves and to protect them from another emergency situation like what they've been through in the past. That trust that those agencies will work in their favor has been pretty successful for me. Keeping that open mindedness and curiosity to see how I can get around obstacles has always been successful. And I've been able to set my clients up in good situations even through that.
What do you think are the biggest challenges facing professionals in your industry today?
Definitely a lack of public education on what case management can look like, especially in housing. A lot of people, and we see it in our current presidential administration, do not have a good understanding of what exactly causes the housing crises that we've seen or causes people to end up losing their homes, and how it happens to really good people. Or not, what happens is not like karma or anything that happens to really good people. So that lack of education in the public eye and like this kind of dehumanization of those who are facing homelessness, I think is a big challenge, because I think that oftentimes it's like the public who gets to vote and do the kind of things that would allocate more resources for permanent supportive housing programs. So yeah, budget cuts in the administration currently have been an issue.
Like you just explained.
I think it's very important for me and anyone else working in an industry like this to remember that if you really care about making a positive change for your community, the people around you, the people who are facing oppression or have had really traumatic situations, doing the work that you're doing in case management or in social work is like the most radical and powerful thing you can be doing to cause the change that you want to see in the world. I stay motivated by just remembering that if I'm watching the news and I'm feeling disheartened or I feel that there's so much struggling and pain in the world, I am dedicating my life to doing what I can to make a difference. That difference is not for nothing. It's a non zero number of change I'm able to make in the world. And that is incredibly motivating, especially when I'm seeing tough stuff happen in my work. Knowing that I've made positive change before and I will continue to is really helpful.
Who is a role model in your life and why do you look up to this particular person?
My mom is definitely my role model. She was a therapist. So I grew up, she was a licensed marriage and family therapist. So again, different route to potentially a similar end goal if I decide to go the therapy route later. My mom, being a therapist, she taught me from a very young age about the importance of caring about the people around you, about being curious about the feelings of the people around you.
What are some next steps that you are looking forward to taking in your professional career?
Like I said, I'm a candidate for my master's in social work. So I'm going to be attending school to get that degree. And that degree will open up that I can actually call myself a social worker and I'll be able to do just a little bit more of a higher level of what I'm doing now. Case management is an amazing opportunity for people with a bachelor's in psychology, for example. I know a lot of people major in psychology and don't really know what they want to do. I always tell people like case management is amazing. And then it opened the door to like later down the line when I do get my master's, I'm able to be the leader of case managers if I want to, or work in nonprofits and other capacities in policy and in hospitals, social work. There's a lot more options and flexibility with an M.S.W.
What is a surprising skill that you use in your job that you didn't learn in school?
I would say compassion. So they don't necessarily aren't able to teach you that in school, but caring about people and believing people when they tell you a story, for example, like trusting people and caring about the pain they are going through and not just being like, oh, I can't wait till I'm off the clock, but really caring about how every minute of mine is spent. That is a skill that's really important. I would say one that's more surprising though would be a good sense of humor. I find that a sense of humor will take you super, super far in case management. Everybody loves to laugh, and being able to tell jokes with my clients shows them that they're people to me. I don't see them as like a sad situation I'm working with. They're like people that I can laugh with. And then going back and being with my colleagues who have their own set of clients, being able to laugh with them, it takes a lot of stress off. So I would say humor and compassion for sure.
What impact does your work have on the community or on the world?
Yeah, and homelessness has like pretty recently, I want to say in 2023 or 2024, hit record highs. So luckily, DC, where I work currently, is seeing slow decreases in homelessness. But homelessness does also mostly impact people of oppressed groups, like marginalized groups, like Black or African American people, or people who've experienced domestic violence. There's really high rates of homelessness in those groups. And all of that trauma from systemic racism to experiencing domestic, it can be so incredibly taxing on people. So being able to be hold someone's hand and bring them to the light at the end of the tunnel and help them get housed after all the trauma in their life. And of course, homelessness itself is a trauma. So being able to provide stability for people who have only known groups pushing them down. A lot of people that I work with don't really trust case managers because they've had case managers hurt them in the past. So being able to show someone that they can trust me, that they can trust some institutions, that systemic oppression is not going to come from every single direction, that completely changes lives. So it's a total joy to be able to be that for people.
What is one thing that they can start doing today to prepare for a successful future, whether it's just the future in general or if they want to follow in your footsteps and do a career in case management or social work? What are some things they can do now that can help them be successful?
Outside of the obvious like academic stuff of focusing in school and trying your best to learn, I would say it's really important too. I would say reading is one thing that is so underrated because what I do in my work, I am meeting so many different kinds of people that I've never met before and interacting with groups of people that I wouldn't have otherwise crossed paths with potentially. And having read a lot of books in my life, just reading is really one way that it can transport you into someone else's perspective and experience. So I definitely think reading and just being curious and open minded about the people around you, asking people questions, getting to know people, building those communication skills and that curiosity can be incredibly helpful in this field and can really help you when college gets hard or when work itself gets hard.
How can someone build confidence in their abilities at a young age?
I would say, especially if you're interested in going into a field, a helping field like social work or case management, or if you're interested in working in mental health or behavioral health practices, anything like that, I would say really learning about your own mental health situation. There's a lot of talk out there that all therapists have their own therapists. And I think it's really important to take care of your mental health personally, because if you know yourself better and are able to clear the fog and understand like why you are the way you are, why you do things the way you do, what it is that maybe you're worried about or preoccupied with that holds you back. Being able to clear those things, the sooner the better, and being able to really understand yourself, that will bring you so much confidence to be able to try new things. If you're less insecure about how you look or how good you are going to be at something, if you're less insecure about that kind of stuff, take care of your mental health, whether that's going to therapy or if that's not accessible, even just like reading self-help books or accessing free resources. It's really important to take good care of your mental health because that is criminally underrated in importance and can legitimately change your life.